Hemenun tes ζωῆς ἐστιν αὕτη, πρῶτον ἀγαπήσεις τον θεόν τον ποιήσαντά σε, δεύτερον τον πλησίον σου ως σεαυτόν, πάντα δε όσα εάν θελήσῃς με γίνεσθαί, kai su ἀλλώ με ποίει. Now we'll go ahead and translate this, and then we'll talk about it. Let's see. And so this is the path of life. First, you will love God who made you, the one who made you, maybe, who made you. Second, or maybe secondly, and we have to understand, you will love. If we do it, if we don't add that in, we ended up with secondly, your neighbor as yourself. We're going to come back and talk about all this. We'll probably add that into the English. Everything which you would not want to happen to you, like befall you, we might say, let's say, I can type, everything which, all the things which you would not want to happen to you. Now I changed that just a little, and we'll talk about that. Even, or maybe also, or even, don't do to another. Maybe we'll say also don't do, understood that, don't do to another. Okay, we're not going to spend a ton of time on the grammar here, but just a few interesting points. This men here, this is kind of a famous Greek construction, men, and then it's usually answered with a de. The de we don't get until chapter 5, because it's often used as a way of contrasting two things. And here, the things being contrasted is, or are, the path of life and the path of death. Notice here, we don't actually get the word for path. We said before that it's, even though it's masculine in form, its actual gender is feminine. And so here's the feminine article. So literally it says, and so the of life is this. And it's not hard to understand that it's referring to hodos. That's the word that's missing there. So the path of life is this. Now this is basically derived from Matthew, is it 22, 37? It's definitely worth pointing out that when Jesus talks about this, talks about loving God and neighbor, he inserts a phrase that I think we should pay some attention to. Notice here he says, en hole te cardia su, kai en hole te psyche su, kai en hole te dianoia su. And I think what we can take from this is Jesus is leaving no stone unturned here. He's saying that we're going to love God with cardia, our heart, cardiac, with our psyche, with our soul, and with our dianoia, with our thoughts, our thinking, maybe our intentions. We are not compartmentalizing this. This is a total transformation of our being. Now here, just a little grammatic information, prῶτον. This is an accusative, but it is not being used as an object. Sometimes accusative and other cases are just used adverbially. So this is like first, just like we can say in English, first you will love, And notice here, it's the future case. It's not a simple imperative. You will love. Τον θεόν, God. We probably wouldn't say the God here. Just a slight difference in Greek. The God. You will love. Now, we might say something like, you will love the divine. You could say something like that. And then here, one thing about the article is this is functioning, this little part here is functioning like a relative clause in English. Who made you? This is an aorist from poieo, the one who made you. Δεύτερον, again, not an object, just an adverb. Second or secondly. And this is what I was saying here. This is, in fact, an object, τον πλησίον. It's the object of ἀγαπήσεις. So in Greek, since they have these cases, it's very easy to understand that it's the object, or that it's attached, sort of attached to ἀγαπήσεις. It's the object of that verb. In English, I don't know. Secondly, your neighbor as yourself. You might. Secondly, we'll just put it in parentheses. Maybe it's more poetic if we leave it out. This is up to you, dear listener. Τον πλησίον σου ως σεαυτόν. And then, just like we said, this is really everything, kind of like as many, everything, all those things. And this is really marking a subjunctive case. We're now speaking about a hypothetical situation, not something that is happening. So it's almost like if you want something not to happen to you, also, or even, don't do to another person. I think in English it's a little smoother if we put the not, if we negate the wanting part. If you don't want something to happen to you, don't do that to another person. The meaning isn't very difficult to ascertain there. It's a beautiful, beautiful teaching. It's there's a lot of interesting things to say about this. First and foremost is notice how when they talk about the path of life, they don't talk about what you believe. They don't say what you believe is important. And that's interesting because very often when you hear Christians talk, it's so much centered on belief. This is centered on what you do. Again, I think it's very telling. This is a practice. This brings it, this is like other spiritual traditions. You have to do something. And really, the goal is a transformation of the heart. That's why this is mentioned, at least in the Gospels, en hole te kardia, with your entire heart. This is, in Indian philosophy, this is bhakti yoga, the way of devotion. This is the path that seeks to transform ourselves through love, through loving kindness. In Buddhism, it's metta, karuna, so not only loving kindness, but compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, upekkha, which are really interesting ideas. So not only, like when we talk about loving our neighbor, sometimes it's almost easier to have compassion for someone than it is to celebrate with them because jealousy can creep in, right? We can see someone who has something and we think, I deserve that more than them. And this practice of loving our neighbor says, no, we celebrate with them. And it's actually even self-serving, because if you can be happy when other people are happy, you can always be happy. You can always find someone who's happy and celebrate with them. What a beautiful, beautiful way to exist. So that's mainly what I would say here, is that this is really the path, a beautiful, not necessarily an easy path, although Narada, who wrote the Bhakti Sutras, says it's the easiest path. There's a path of like service and a path of maybe, you might say, contemplation or just kind of knowledge. But Narada says that this is the easiest path. And it's a good thing. When you start letting your heart love, it becomes nourished. It really becomes nourished. So again, going back here to the path of life, we're trying to align ourselves with what is highest and most good. The to alethinon agathon, as they say in the Hermetica, chapter 13, that with what's most real, or with actually what's real, what's the true good. And this kind of love is one of those things. It's one of those vehicles that can transform us and help us to see that our baseline urges and instincts and conceptions are all basically mistaken and lead us they are not part of the he hodos te soes, but he hodos tu thanatu, or the path of death and sleepfulness and illusion.